Led by a lifelong interest in healing, Dr. Linda Salvin pursued an advanced degree in epidemiology. Then, after dramatic near-death experiences, Dr. Linda saw the other side and returned with gifts of insight, visions, and revealed wisdom. Now those gifts are ongoing, and she's here to share them with you. Get ready to be amazed. It's time for Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions podcast with America's original radio psychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, offering up her always fascinating blend of psychic psychology, clairvoyant insights, and expert guests and alternative healing methods. So pull up a chair and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Psychic Solutions Podcast. I am Dr. Linda Salvin. I've got an MPH, which is a Master of Public Health and Epidemiology, and a PhD in Metaphysics. I've been doing this show for over 30 years, and this is the podcast version of what used to be on terrestrial radio, where I would take calls and answer your questions with regards to love, money, moving, travel, health, communication, spirituality, whatever. And in the podcast, I do a lot of interviews, and I bring guests on week after week and day after day. We do 3 days a week on the show, so you can always download us at YouTube or iTunes or drlindaradio.com or on Facebook or wherever you find links. I'm one out of millions. I'm not unique. I'm one of many podcasters, because that's the thing today. Everybody's got a voice. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got a station. Everybody's got a something. And I have a friend coming on to help me co-host. You've met him before. His name is Dave Swafford. Come on, Dave. Let's bring you back onto the show and say hi to Dave again. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Dave's my neighbor. Dave's an Emmy Award-winning retired artist and editor from TV, who gratefully does a lot of my graphics. When you see the purple Psychic Podcast Solutions podcast, that's Dave's brilliant artwork. And you will hear stories from Dave, whether it was a near-death experience, candle magic experience. In the past, I did some strawberry healing with him. I just did a strawberry treatment on myself today. I spent, I did 4 areas. So I was out there for about an hour treating my body with the infrared lights. But I don't talk about that as much anymore because that's not the focus. But today we're going to talk about healing, people. We're going to talk about metaphysical healing. What is healing? We all heal ourselves. We all have a God. Well, maybe not everybody has a God, but there is God energy. There is a force out there that will heal the body. And yes, medication helps. I'm not dissing the medical society nor the pharmaceutical companies, because I've needed medication or surgeries or doctors like everybody. But there's alternative ways to keep yourself healthy as well, where you don't need to depend on others. And that's what I started doing over 35 years ago when I got into metaphysics. And metaphysics is actually defined as the combination of spirituality and psychology combined. And Dr. Carl Jung, who studied with Freud back in the early 1900s, was really the father of metaphysics in modern day society. We can go back to Socrates and go back to Hippocrates and all the ancient philosophers and doctors and spiritual people as to how the body and the mind and the spirit all came together as one. But in today's day and age, especially the last couple decades, the holistic movement has really taken on a new format, and people of the new generation are getting more into nutritionals and how to take care of their body, their skin, their DNA. Genealogy is only 20 years old, and that's become a new topic in and of itself, where you look at your genes, which we can do on one of the companies I work with, which I'll explain momentarily, and you find out what you were born with and what the hotspots might be that might be your higher risk for disease. And I have a background in preventative medicine from the University of Michigan, and I've always wanted to help people stay healthy rather than being in curative medicine, which a lot of times is just the Band-Aid, and they don't get to the source of what's causing disease, which is disease. So today we're going to talk about metaphysical healing, and we're going to talk about some of the spiritual experiences. Like Dave had a near-death experience when he was, 18 years old, I believe, out in the ocean.
Yes, right out of high school.
Why don't we go into that, and then we'll go back to the health, because even though near death was frightening and altering in your life, it's still a preventative measure because it taught you something that you don't want to do again, but it also awakened you into a higher level of thinking and processing your life. Why don't you tell the new listeners that have never met you before or heard you before, what happened when you were in Hawaii?
Right out of high school, I took 3 months off during the summertime, and I
You were
went
smart.
to Hawaii. And I went with my girlfriend, and we slept on the beach. We stayed with friends. We couch surfed, and we
Hi,
ended up,
hippies.
yes, and we ended up at we ended up at Makapu Beach in Oahu, and I thought, well, hey, let's put on our swimsuits and go into the ocean.
Is that where the black sand beach is? I don't even know what island has the black sand. Is that in Oahu?
The sand was not black. It was just regular sand,
Okay,
but it
white.
was a very nice beach, very beautiful, not too crowded. It was kind of early in the summertime and the tourists hadn't come yet.
Migrated.
Yeah.
Taken over.
Went there, they had lifeguards, and it was a regulated beach. So it wasn't just like a, isolated situation.
Nude beach. No, you were on a regular public beach.
Yes. And so I went out up to my knees. Oh, the water was warm. It was nice. It was sunny outside, the nice breeze. I went a little deeper up to my waist. And then all of a sudden, I felt myself being drawn out into the, further out into the water.
It was the riptide, right?
I got caught in a riptide. And I guess they can kind of predict those riptides, but I had no idea what those things were. And all of a sudden, I was out there and the water was just under my chin, kind of getting into my mouth. And I tried to swim to shore, could not do it. The harder I swam towards the shore, the further out I got. And I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble. And so my girlfriend saw this, and all of a sudden I went down. I could touch bottom, but it was over my head. I kind of jumped up, gasping for air. And I thought, oh no, this is it. I'm going to die. This is how my life ends.
Oh, and you were 18?
18 years old. And when you're 18, you don't have any thoughts of death. You think you're just going to live forever.
No thoughts of mortality, really. We think we're invincible. It
Exactly.
gets our age now, and it gets narrower. But come on.
And so I was starting to worry in my mind. And so I, all of a sudden, my vision, it rose up, and I could see, it was as if a drone was hovering over me, and I could see myself struggling in the water.
That was the out of body. Your soul left your body to protect you from the fear and the pain. Go on.
That must have been it, because
that's called out of body experience. That's wonderful.
I saw myself. I was hovering like 20, 30 feet above myself, and I could look down and I could see myself. I'd raise my hand and like, I need help. I need help. And then all of a sudden, I imagined what it would be like, that my lifeless body would be dragged up onto the beach onto the wet sand, and there would be an ambulance that would back itself up, and they would load my body into the back of the ambulance. My girlfriend was there crying and sobbing, "Oh, save him, save him." But it was too late. I was already dead. And so I thought, this is it. This is how I die. And all of a sudden, I felt a hand reach in, and it grabbed me, and he pulled me to shore. And it was the lifeguard. My girlfriend had run up to the lifeguard shack and said, we need help. We need help. And so he grabbed my hand, pulled me to shore. By this time, I was completely spent. I was so exhausted trying to fight that current.
Well, of course, you're trying to probably, pedal and keep yourself afloat.
Yeah,
you're out of
trying
energy, dog paddle, anything to breathe and keep going. Those muscles get tired.
Exactly. And I have no idea how long I was out there. It was probably just a few minutes, but it seemed like hours I was out there. And just in my mind, I had imagined what the aftermath would look like and what it would be like. So the lifeguard, he was just very nonchalant. He pulled me into shore, left me on the wet sand, and I just laid there for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
That's his job. He did his job. He rescued you.
And he did his job, and he went back up, and he was looking out for everybody else. So I go, okay, saved one guy. Next, who's next? And so I felt so lucky to be alive, but it was so strange to look above, to be
that's the out of body
down.
experience. Let me explain the out-of-body experience for a moment, because I've had them. And that's how I got into all of this, is people who may or may not know. I survived a commercial airline plane crash in 1981, got hit by a fire truck in 1982, totaled a car in 1984, had the white light experience. And each time, it's just like you'll read in papers or articles where somebody in surgery is laying on the operating table, but they leave their body and they watch the surgeons, or they hear them saying, oh, we may not be able to save her or him, or she's bleeding too much, or the heart stopped, and the person above, like you, where the soul leaves the body. I get chills telling the truth, of course. And you're saying, no, I'm fine. I'm alive. I'm going to survive, but you can't hear you because soul and spirit don't communicate with the physical being. But we often leave our body like that, or the soul, I should say, just like it's called astral travel. We astral project. We leave the body with an out-of-body experience, a lot of the times to prevent us from feeling the pain and trauma like you went through, even though consciously you knew, but you left to observe, also to tell this story many years later, and to bring it all together on a spiritual level, which has become the norm in today's society for a lot of people's communication and identification today. But a lot of people don't understand that the soul has its own mind, per se, and will separate from the body to protect itself from the trauma, such as surgery, a car accident, a near-death drowning, or whatever. And then you come back and you integrate, but you were changed. Your mindset was different.
Totally changed. It changed my outlook on life. I was a little bit more grateful. I was just and fearful of something like that happening again. And in fact, to this day, more than 50 years later, I have never gone back in the ocean. Now, that's just a little bit of fear in the back of my mind. It's irrational. I could go in the ocean anytime I want.
No, it's not irrational, because I still freak out getting on a plane. And you know how often I travel, but I still get anxiety. I still have panic attacks on board. I can't help it. It's part of what's happened to me as a result of trauma 43 years ago, just like with you over 50 years ago. You can't help what happens emotionally. Even though a lot of people say, Dave, just get back in the water, go down to Santa Monica, get your feet wet, take the kids or take your granddaughter, just do something and get your toes wet and face the fear and get a little wave up to your knees. You don't have to go out to your neck, but feel the water.
Well, that was like, get back on the horse, and don't be afraid. But I just never have. And living in Southern California,
it's time.
The beach is 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away.
I'm going to get you in the car this summer. We're going to go to the beach. I'm going to take a day off, and we're going to go down to the beach. We're going to get your feet wet and maybe even video it and bring it back on the show to say, Dave confronted his fear of the water here at the beach in Southern California. And I'll bet you once you feel the sun, the sand, hear the waves, feel the wave, you're going to like, oh, after all that time, I was afraid of this. Let's do that. We'll figure out a time of maybe before I leave on this next trip. We don't know.
We do a baptism.
Well, I'm Jewish. I wouldn't call it a baptism. I would call it a spiritual indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
However, because it's, I'm not going to dump you. I'm not going to dunk you. Get your hair well. Put your hair up in a ponytail. Dave did not have this long hair prior to lockdown, people. This is his hair since lockdown. He became like a little Indian, and he's got this long, beautiful, well, I guess it was blondish gray.
It used to be white blonde, yeah. Now it's gray.
Okay, but it doesn't look gray. It still looks white. It still looks white, especially on the black. But the out-of-body near-death experiences are real. And I can testify, Dave testifies, I've had people on the show that testify. It's real phenomena that our soul separates. The soul enters upon birth. When that baby cries for the first time, that's the soul activating throughout the body. The body may be here, but then let's slap it or pat it until it meow, or that's a cat, but until the baby starts to cry. Or as a person's dying, that last breath is the soul leaving. But in between, we have life. But when we're born, we're actually on our way to death, because we don't know how long we're going to live until we die and reincarnate, come back again. Now, let me ask you what you're going to say.
Oh, I've experienced both those life and death. I have two sons, and I was there in the delivery room, and I heard the first cries. And then I was also by my father's side when he took his last breath.
So you've seen it, but did you get to see the soul enter or exit? Did you watch the energy? Could you see like a little cloud, or you weren't aware? You just heard and saw the breath?
He was just gasping for air, and then finally it was just one last.
That must have been sad and frightening, but beautiful at the same time.
It was not that sad because he lived to ripe old age of 95.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. And he was ready to go. He knew he was going to go. He got sick. 3 days later, he was gone. So it wasn't a lingering
it wasn't
illness.
A long time.
Yeah.
Good for him. He didn't suffer.
But I did see his last breath go. And it
was that up in Washington?
Yeah, it was up in Olympia, Washington. I was there in the hospital, or it was a convalescent hospital at that point, and end of life hospice care.
Wow.
And but I saw his last breath. But what was very spiritual to me was hearing both my sons, their first cries, and that was as life-changing as anything else.
Your sons are how old now?
Well, they're 25 and 28.
How does it make you feel knowing that your babies are adults and on their way? They're out of school. They're starting their lives. They're starting to really become the men that you had hoped.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of them. They both finished college. They both have degrees. And what I liked the best was they went to college for free based on scholarships and grants.
Good
and
for
they
them.
both graduated without any debt at all.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Did they both get their jobs that they wanted? Are they still out there looking? What are they doing now?
Yeah, they're still, they both have jobs, but it's not the career track jobs that they want.
Yeah.
But they are working. Our youngest son has left the nest already, so he's on his own. He has some roommates, and they have a nice penthouse apartment. It's actually pretty nice. So, I think the arc of life is, as it's portrayed, is pretty satisfying.
But you also have a 3-year-old at the house, 2-year-old. How old is she?
Yes, we do. It's our 4-year-old niece now.
Oh, she 4 now? Oh my God, I can't keep up with it.
Yeah, she just turned 4, and she stays with us now. So, starting
so you're
over.
raising another generation.
Raising another one. And I want to, I'm going to take what I learned from before.
Yeah, and improve it this time, right? Yeah.
And she's going to be a nuclear scientist or, or
an
something.
Actress.
Or a
musician, maybe. Or she'll, who knows? It's interesting. I was just talking to a friend of mine up in Alaska that I met when I was up there, and he has a 7-year-old daughter, and I was asking how she's doing, and she just finished first grade. And yesterday we were talking, I said, I wonder what it's going to be like in 30 years, when she's on her way to 40, what's going to be in the world? We just know what's going on with Israel and Palestine right now. We know what's going on in Russia. We know what's going on with technology. We know what's going on with the food and the contamination with the sprays and what's happening, but what's it going to be like in 30 years? And he'll be in his 60s and I'll probably be dead. But we don't know what the future is going to bring. So if she's going to be close to 40 by that time, and your granddaughter is going to be 33 by that time, or 34, what's going to be in their generation? What is it going to be like in their time that we won't? You may see it. I probably won't. I don't know.
We're pretty close in age.
No, we are. But we don't know what's going to happen. But think about 30 years from now, there's going to be things that haven't even been discovered or created.
Yeah, but then I think of generations past, somebody who was born during or just pre-World War II did not have a whole lot to look forward to. And, it's like, oh, we're in a world war, things are bad. And then when I was growing up, it was in the 60s and 70s, and there was a whole social upheaval. Mm-hmm. And so I think it just, for every generation, it's going to have a bleak outlook, but it will turn out to be okay.
It does. It works its way out, and some things repeat. Last week, I had somebody on the show that had written a book called On Life, where he interviewed 14 men from their 40s up through their 80s or 90s. My father was one of those 14 people. And I came across a passage in the book last week when Don Avila was on last Thursday, or I don't even remember if it was Tuesday. I don't remember what day it was on. But if you're looking at the podcast, go look for Don Avila. And one of the chapters was about my father. And my father had one of the questions he asked, and I opened up the book arbitrarily to a place that said, did you experience anti-Semitism in your childhood? Well, when my dad was 14 here in LA at Hamilton High School, my uncle, my great uncle at the time, was involved with anti-Semitism with the doctors in Hollywood and whatnot. And I forgot all about this. But my dad put together a peaceful demonstration that went downtown Los Angeles, I think on Hope Street, and they were silently, quietly demonstrating against the Palestinians and anti-Semitism in 1943. They were doing the same thing. Like now we've got the ruckus out here, but there were some Marines that had just come out of this building, and they took my dad and all the people my dad was with, and they hit him over the head with all the placards that they had. Yeah. And one Marine started yelling, "This is what we fought for in the South Pacific." But my dad explains in the chapter that Marines didn't know they were there demonstrating for peace, not against, but to help bring more balance. It was just interesting. I couldn't even find this book, Dave. I looked for a month and a half since I had Don booked on the show. Could not for the life of me find the book. And 5 minutes before airtime, I find this book, open it up to just some page just referred to, and there was anti-Semitism, which was so perfect for the time that we're in right now. Again, history repeats itself. It's like, has anything really changed? If that was 1943, and this is 2024, and we're still going through it.
Still going through it. They haven't solved the problems.
No,
I saw on TV 2-3 weeks ago about people getting hit over the head with their own placards, but and it was police versus on UCLA and USC. So you'd think they'd be able to figure it out after 40, 50, 60 years.
It's 3,000.
Then you look at it, and it goes back 3,000 years. 3,000
years old. It's the same fight, the same struggle, the same bias, the same bullshit of the Palestinians and the Israelis. And Israel was here in the Bible long before it even became a state in 1948. It goes on and on and on and on and on. I have experienced anti-Semitism. I grew up with anti-Semitism. I grew up knowing that most of my grandmother's family were killed in the camps. I know a lot of pain. And it goes on again. And for what? And marching and demonstrating doesn't solve a problem anyway. You can voice an opinion or carry a sign, but the powers that be don't do anything anyway. But that's not what this show is about. I didn't really want to get into politics. It was just a segue. But I do have a question. The woman you were with, your girlfriend at the time, that you were at the beach, is that the same girl we did some Weeks of Wisdom on?
It is. It's the very same
one. Let's go
into
that. Let me talk about Weeks of Wisdom for a moment. Look at that smile on him. People, I do candle magic. If you've heard of Wicks of Wisdom, it's my candle magic line that's been around since 1999. And yes, I paid Kris Jenner $25,000 to host my TV infomercial, which you can see on YouTube under my name. There's a half-hour show that we did on TV, and I think it aired in 08 and 09. And we were selling Wicks of Wisdom on national TV cable stations out in Canada. And good old Dave gets me as a neighbor. And 2017, I moved in to rent this house next door to his house, and he didn't know what I was, or he didn't think I belonged with all the directors and producers and musicians on the block. And here's the psychic. He doesn't know I'm an award-winning talk show host. He didn't understand that I'd been on TV and radio for 30 years. He knew nothing about me. And then one day I invite him over. I said, "Why don't you try this and try that?" And he's like, "What? Oh, will you do some pictures?" Because he's a photographer and he's a graphic artist. And all of a sudden we start becoming friendly. Well, as we were taking pictures of my candles to improve the website, which you can go to at lindasalvin.com and look at all the Wicks of Wisdom, which is also connected to wicksofwisdom.net, you will see these gorgeous pictures of 3 candles in alignment. They're all the same colors, though. And then all the different bottles of oils are stacked together. And there's a beautiful photograph of herbs and oils and powders. But Dave was just being the photographer. He didn't know what they really did, and he didn't believe that they really worked magic. How can you do magic? Well, I left town at one point, but I gave Dave a soulmate power candle. Those are the pink ones, and some red oil, and the oils and the herbs and the powders all mixed together. And then you write some words on a piece of paper. I'm trying to find if I have any samples here. I probably do, but I can't find it. And there's a whole ritual that takes place, whether you're doing for money, love, moving, travel, love to bring in somebody from the past, communication, to get rid of somebody who's a nemesis in your life, to break up a third wheel that might be interfering, to improve health. I kept 2 girls out of 20-year sentences in jail. Both have been on the show over the last couple of months. Both got their cases dropped. 20 years facing federal prison. The candles kept them out of jail, and their lawyers had never seen anything like it, but they came back to me to thank me. The candles work. Dave was a skeptic. I love skeptics.
Yes, I was.
Now tell us what happened.
Well, you actually sent me 2 different candles. The first one was it was a love candle of some sort.
Yeah, the soulmate.
Yeah, the soulmate. And you prepared it. You had the
It's
called
called dressing with the oils, herbs, and powders.
You showed me how to write the
petition.
The petition. And then, I took it from there. The petition was all written out. And what I wanted to do was to reinvigorate my relationship with my wife. I've been married for almost 30 years.
First. Yeah.
And we were, kind of used to each other, taking each other for granted. And
it was flatlining. You were just doing life. Yeah.
Yeah. And I imagine it's a typical arc for most long-term marriages.
But what happened?
And so
Is she listening?
No, she's not.
Okay.
So I took
Okay.
the petition and burned it, put the ashes in there, and stirred it up with the oil and the
Herbs,
powders.
And
powders and stuff. And soon, within a few days, my wife was it just seemed like she was just more attentive,
a little more affectionate,
and
more
a little
loving.
more horny, I guess you want to say. And so it did kind of put a little spark in our relationship.
I'll give you more.
And so I thought, wow, this is interesting.
What is this?
But I thought it was
oils. How does this work? Why would my wife all of a sudden change her behavior?
Yeah. And so I thought maybe because I did the candles, or you helped me with the candles or the candle, and that my attitude had changed.
Oh, of course.
And it affected hers. And I thought, it's just, my reaction to a mystical situation.
Yeah,
but
you tried to analyze it.
Yeah. And so I tried to think, I thought maybe I was paying more attention to her and she was reciprocating. I found out it was really the candle that did its magic.
People, here's the piece of paper which we use as petitions. When Dave and I are talking petitions, you use pencil, and there's things that are written on each line. There's words that are written all over the page, which I do not discuss until you purchase your set of Wicks of Wisdom, because the magic is in the writing and the oils. There are many, many different types of oils. I have about 30 different colors, property. It's like pepper, garlic, oregano, paprika, different spices. We have different oils, and the combination of each oil pack, where you get 4 per set, will create a different result. In this situation, Dave did soulmate power. First, we did it on his wife. Now you're hearing that his wife became a little more aware, affectionate, horny, desperate, passionate, all that. Yeah, go on.
All of those. And so then, a few months went by, and you gave me another set, this time a full set of 3 candles.
All 3, yeah. Can you imagine if you did all 3 on your wife?
Oh, man. I don't know if I could take that. But so I thought, well, I'm going to change it up a little bit. The effect it had on my wife was noticeable. And so I thought, okay, this time you gave me a different set of candles. And I thought, okay, on my petition, I'm going to write, let's contact a lost love.
Let's see if this really works.
And it happened to be the girl that I went to Hawaii with.
And she's in Washington and you're in California.
Right. And I had lost contact with her for, 40, at least 40 some years.
Yeah.
And so I did the petition, did the whole thing. This time I added the oils and the
You did it yourself this time.
Yeah, I did it myself. And so I lit the first candle and let it burn, and it burned all the way to the bottom. And because you had warned me sometimes candles go out, and you can light them like what, 3 times?
3 times, yeah. If the flame goes out, everything's in thirds.
And you told me to use a lighter.
Not a match. We use a lighter, not a match. Yeah.
And write the petition in pencil, not in pen.
Not a pen. Yeah. There's reasons.
And so I followed those directions, and then so nothing happened. The first candle. So then the second candle, I did all that mixed it all up.
Were you thinking, oh, this is hogwash, this is BS?
Yeah. So halfway through the second candle, I get a phone call, and I didn't really recognize the number, but I did recognize the area code, and it was from Olympia, Washington. And so I answered the phone because I thought maybe it was someone I knew, or, a family member. It was her. She had called, and I go, "What made you call?" She goes, I just felt like talking to you.
And you're like, oh my God.
And I go, "How did you get my number?" She goes, "Oh, I had to call around. I had to find your number, because I didn't have any numbers posted online or anything. So it's not like she could Google my name and get that. She had to call a series of friends to find because it was my cell phone number. And so she kind of had to go out of her way to do this. And I'm not sure. She said she just felt compelled to do that. And this was halfway through the second candle.
Soulmate power candles will enhance your love life.
Mm-hmm.
It will bring in the love, communication, the sex, the passion. I had some people in Connecticut years ago. A man called because his wife and he had not had sex in years. He started doing the candles. He goes, "Give me more. I'm going to buy stock. We're having sex like bunnies." And I'm like, okay. The candle magic works, people. It works. You can knock it all you want. There's hundreds of lines out there. Mine have a little different energy and purpose and results. Everything's online at lindasalvin.com and on my YouTube channel with all the testimonies. It's all there. And if you're interested, mention the show with Dave and you'll get a 10% discount. Go on. She called. You talked.
So we talked for, 45 minutes, just mainly catching up. And then, so because of the phone call, she had my text number. And then the next day she texted. And then the day after that, I just said, "Hi, nice talking to you," kind of thing. Just
it's like
because I was not interested in rekindling any romance or anything.
No, but you kindled the candle to see if it worked.
Just to see if it worked. And so I went ahead and did the third candle. And all of a sudden I was getting phone calls. I was getting text messages. I was getting, it was like, she wouldn't leave me alone. And it got to the point where I blocked her.
And I'll tell people, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. And so I had no idea that it would have such a powerful effect on her. And, we were both married. She was married to, she's been married for a long time. So have I. And, so
memories are always within us. And that connection even is 30, 50, 60, 70 years later. But the beauty of the candle magic that Dave is getting to with the Wicks of Wisdom is it stimulated the energy enough within this woman to reach out, to do the work, to find Dave, who's miles and miles away. They hadn't talked in over 30 years, but because the candle petition had her name and things he wanted for communication, after a week and a half, maybe, all of a sudden there's activity. The candles work very quickly. They're like a prescription for your soul. I was trained in 1999. It's now 2024. We've got a new campaign launching this summer, which is going to put it out there on the digital world. We've had a couple of bumps along the road the last few years, but we're ironing all that out to relaunch Wicks of Wisdom. But the first round was 1999 to about 2009 when I was on CBS radio, and things changed because the internet changed and terrestrial radio changed and marketing changed and money changes. Then we had the lockdown, things go through change. But the bottom line is Wicks of Wisdom work like a prescription for your soul. If you need peace and harmony, or you have needs for money, success, getting rid of negativity, bad luck, if you want to shut somebody up, you want to win a lawsuit, if you want to work with lawsuits, like the two girls that I kept out of jail for 20 years each, they did sweetening judgment and they did good luck power. And then I teach you how to direct the energy. I've got a new one as of yesterday who's also facing a 20-year sentence. I don't know where these people come from, but I can help them. Or you can do love, or you can do health. I have a girl in Portugal. I do about 5 to 8 candles for her twice a month. So I have them going constantly. She's got a lot of issues and she keeps getting all the healing. I've got one in the Bahamas. I've got a couple people here. I've got some in Israel, Scotland, one guy in Switzerland who I worked with for about 9 months. He had a foot problem, and the doctor with the MRIs and the ultrasounds couldn't find what the problems were, people, but he came to me for help. I did the candles, and in a week and a half, the pain went away. So he wanted to know, how does that work? I said, that's my work. That's me as a healer. So let's go back to metaphysical healing, which was part of the title for today, where metaphysical healing, you can't see it. It's not tangible. Like here's a crystal. This is black amethyst. Okay. And I bought this at a convention a few months ago, and the energy is beautiful. And I keep it in front of the show or my laptop when I'm doing the show. So I'm constantly touching it to get energized. At the same time, I'm healing myself because I pick up everybody else's energy and it grounds me. But that's tangible. You can see it. You can touch it. You can see the shape. You can't touch or see candle magic. You cannot figure out how it works any more than, well, what's God? What is the Red Cross? It's a name, but you can't understand the blood that they collect to help the people who have been harmed in some way. You can't define why Dave lit a candle thinking of a girl from 30, 40 years ago, and she pops up. Why? That's the magic, everybody. You can't define candle magic. You can't define metaphysics. As a healer, I have taken over where a lot of doctors stop or fail or can't do, like the guy in Switzerland, for example, or the headaches the girl has in Portugal. I'm helping her where some of the doctors can't touch. And she had mandibular, meaning the jawline had been broken where her ex had punched her and beat her up. And there's a lot of residual effects as a result of the abuse. But I'm able to help it on a spiritual level. Metaphysics is spiritual. Sometimes I take people on a healing journey, which is a 40-minute process. I get into the organs, the tissues, the muscles, and I find the disease or the emotional attachment lodged in the liver, the kidneys, the spleen, the bladder, the breast, the penis, the toes, the ears, the eyes, whatever. And I remove all the negative energy, and people start healing in a way that surgery or medication may not help the person. So again, as I open the show, we can all heal ourselves, but sometimes we need a facilitator to help that process. So I have learned through the gifts I've been given to help people with the spiritual stuff, and candles, and then the testimonies and my energy. That's my gift as a metaphysical healer on the frequency I operate on, that most people, except psychics on my level, comprehend, because most people are here. I'm over here with this gift, which makes me able to do what I do as Dr. Linda, helping other people. Dave, who didn't have a clue when I moved in, has learned so much about metaphysics and the magic and like, what is she doing? Who is she really? And then he finds out, and it's like, whoa, I might be going to Dubai, as we know, in December. I've been nominated for 4 awards around the world. Did I tell you about that? I think I did. That I've been nominated for 4 awards, and if I've gone through the first 3 levels, I have 2 more to pass. I should know in about 30 days if I'm selected and going to Dubai to get these awards. So people out there recognize my achievements in taking science and metaphysics and blending it, which most people don't do. Most people can't do both. I have that gift to integrate the physical world with the spiritual world, which is where I'm able to help heal people, or to help people like Dave achieve a different level of comprehension on a spiritual level, explaining the out-of-body experience, explaining the near-death experience, explaining how candle magic works. And Dave gets involved, like I said, with the graphics and making the artwork. So he'll help with the radio station that we've created here. Hi, John. How are you? You must have just received your candles. You need to call me for the petitions. Why don't you call in, talk to Dave, explain your story. John's in Tennessee, I believe. South Carolina, 561-623-9421. Why don't you call in? I'd love to hear from you. 561-623-9421. Don't be shy. Call in, John, and say hi. And then give me a call so we can do your petitions now that the candles have arrived. Don't be shy. 561-623-9421. Rebel will answer the phone and patch you through. And talk to Dave. Dave was just like you. He was skeptical at one point and started. Now he knows.
No, I'm a believer now.
Oh, yes.
It worked for me. And it was not just a coincidence. I had the first experience, and then I wanted to have a second chance to see if they
Prove it.
really worked, and they did. So,
Well, you had a long shot too, Dave. It's one thing to work on your wife and watch and see and feel, and I think we should do some more. Maybe I'll just do it for you and surprise you. I don't know if I have the time, which I can do. You can do candles for other people. It's just the directive, and you wanted to see, well, does it really work? And I personally went through a similar situation. I did some soulmate power recently on somebody I hadn't talked to in a while. I did some, and now we're talking again because I broke through that quiet zone.
Yeah.
And either they're going to reach out or they're not. They're going to respond or they're not. I reached out with a joke, and it's been nonstop ever since. Sometimes you got to just break the ice. But I know that hallway of non-communication was a reset. But to test to see what's really there, I just lit a candle to see what would happen, and boom, it's just back to where we left off a few weeks ago, which is nice. It's not overwhelming. It's not hypnosis. It's not hypnosis. It's not a spell where they're mesmerized and they have to have it. Your girl got a little obsessed. You struck.
Yeah, it was a little stronger a reaction than I had anticipated.
But she was still in love with you, and she couldn't wait to get you. She became more obsessive, where she needed more and more and more. And like, what else could she get? And you finally said no more, and you blocked her.
Some of these texts that she would write is like, no.
Too lascivious.
Please don't say that.
Oh, she was remembering everything. No, let's not say this on the air either. John, if you're out there, call in, please. We've got about 7 minutes left in today's broadcast. It's gone fast. It always goes fast with you, Dave. We talk about the near death. We talk about healing. We talk about the candles. But I want to talk about nutrition for a moment. When I was talking about genealogy and talking about genetics, we all have different genes in our body, of course, that we've inherited from our mother and father that make us who we are as human beings. I am with a company that works with our DNA. We swab our cheeks. We send these swabs to the lab in Texas. It's totally HIPAA compliant. There is no government interference. You then, in turn, get a chart of 18 genes as to what you inherited from your mother and father, and you find out the hot spots. The red dots represent that both parents, you inherited a gene from both parents. Thank you, Rebel. The red would represent from both parents. I have cardiovascular disease and depression and anxiety from both sides of the family. And then I have high blood pressure from both sides of the family. The SOD2 gene, this is a sample of the nutrition that's in it. Everybody gets the same nutrition, but in different doses. So think of 440,000 different formulas. Hold that for a second there, Rebel. So you can see you got all the different vitamins and minerals, and it goes into the jar, and you take it twice a day. But your supplement fact sheet will look different than my supplement fact sheet because you're not me. They customize and clinically dosage the, of course, he has to start the, whatever. I think he's here. But the dosages are specially created for each human being. My blood levels have gone down. My liver enzyme levels have gone down. I no longer drink coffee because I no longer crave caffeine because the caffeine gene was fed the proper nutrition needed to balance my gene. The moods that I may have had in the past to balance because my blood sugars and my neurological system has changed as a result of taking the nutrition. If you're interested in nutritionalizing your body, you could go to every big box store, buy 20, 30 bottles and think you're taking 50 milligrams of this and 100 milligrams of that or whatever, but you don't know what your body needs until it's analyzed. And when it's analyzed and then customized, like it says, it's got my name and a barcode. That's all they know at the company is my name and a barcode. Dave could get it and it'll be Dave Swafford, but his ingredient list will be similar to mine, but the dosage will be for his body. And his kids are not going to be the same as him because they inherited from their parents, which would be part Dave and part his wife. And they customize the product. If you're interested in learning more about the genetic DNA nutrition, please contact me at the website. Even at the top, it'll say detox, B3 bands, and DNA. And you can read all about it or you can sign up, but contact me and I will walk you through it. And then usually after 4 months, your body changes, your skin changes, your muscular system changes, the blood panels that you have will improve, thyroid, liver, sugars. My A1Cs are like 5. I think they were up to 6.2 at one point, but now they're 5 because everything balanced in my body. So there's no diabetes. You know, if you want to stay healthy, last year, if you remember, I talked about a report that came out. 45% of the water in the United States is contaminated. That causes obesity, diabetes, autoimmune diseases. It's all, we're being poisoned. We're being poisoned with the glyphosates, with the appeal on all the fruits and vegetables, and the animals are being inoculated with poisons now. So it's in our body. We want to detox that to stay healthy. If you don't have health, you don't have a good quality of life. And we want to live as long as we can while we're combating society. We can't control what's out there, but we can control what we put in our body. So between metaphysical healing, where I remove the blocks, obstacles, negativity that you're dealing with internally, plus what you can take to enhance, or there's another product that's the Total Detox with 5 different products that Sharon and I discussed last week. It's under the Gut Health and Detox show last Wednesday. If you go to Psychic Solutions Podcast, you will find that. You can also heal with the health and wellness candles with Wicks of Wisdom. I had one girl bleeding vaginally years ago. Her husband Tony's been on the show. She didn't want a hysterectomy. We did a set of candles. She stopped bleeding. The candles work like a prescription for your soul, whether it's love, health, legal, keeping people out of jail. How does it work? We don't know. It's magic, just like you can't touch it. Again, it's spiritual. It's metaphysical. It's that woo-woo. But I understand the woo-woo. Then I've convinced certain people to understand the woo-woo, even though it's still woo-woo to people like Dave. But Dave's become more of like, he's not afraid of me. He knows I'm not going to blow the place up or put a broomstick in his doorway to say, let's go for a ride. But I may take you to the beach. My car's in the shop right now. So, but when I get it back, I think we'll go down to the beach and get your feet wet. We're at the end of the show. John, I know you're listening. Please call me so that we can go over your candles. What would you like to close the show with, Dave, to give the new listener or the skeptic some insight, hope, or not a promise, but enlightenment?
Well, I did want to mention the candles again, because I think you have like 16 or 17 different sets of candles, depending on, you know, what your needs are. That you could have one for love, one for money, one for success,
health, one for legal,
for health and legal things. And that your website does. In fact, I spent many, many hours creating these candle images that describe what each candle set does and how to order
it. Voiceover too. I came to your studio and I did little 10, 20-second blurbs to explain, to help people understand what they're for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so any questions you have, it's not just, the candles aren't just for finding a lost love or money or success. There's a whole range of emotions that these candles can connect you to.
As you have discovered for yourself in 2 different situations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we're going to do is get you to the beach. Then we're going to come back on the show and say how it felt to go to the beach. Maybe we'll go down to the pier or something, because Santa Monica, if people don't know, Santa Monica Pier is, like Dave said, about 30 minutes from where we live. And if we go during the week, it won't be as crowded yet, even though the high schoolers and the college kids will be there soon. So we'll have to get in just before Memorial Day, maybe get down there before the rush hits. And then the parking, I think, used to be, when I was a kid, it was 50 cents to park, and now it's like $30 to park.
Yeah, at least.
It's crazy. But I want to thank you for taking the time to do this today. And I want to thank Rebel for being there to always show up, especially with the graphics when it comes to the DNA nutrition. And in my file, we can talk about it. So if you download the podcast and you have questions, please call me off the air. All the information will be at the end of the show, or just go to lindasalvin.com. Everything you want to know is put together on a beautiful website, which is getting a facelift, people. When the new site is launched, probably midsummer, you're going to see a whole new set of pictures. You're going to see a whole new vibe on a more mystical level about my brand, Dr. Linda Salvin, whether it is the radio station, the candles, the testimonials, the psychic services like readings, healings, and channeling sessions, whatever you need, it's all there at lindasalvin.com. Dave Swafford, again, brilliant, has his own experience, gives us strength, gives us hope. And we'll be back soon, people, with another episode tomorrow. I have a guest by the name of Nick, who is a plant communicator. He loves herbs, plants, and he talks to animals. You're not going to want to miss that. I will be back then. Right now, I'll see you backstage, Dave. Thank you for joining. I'm Dr. Linda Salvin. This is Psychic Solutions Podcast every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here on Talk for TV and Talk for Women Radio, lindasalvin.com, drlindaradio.com, YouTube, Linda Salvin. I'm everywhere, like everybody. But I want to hear from you. 818-821-3322 is my direct line. 888-509-1077 is the toll-free line to you. Have a great day or evening, everybody. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions Podcast. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.